call up our next another three panelists. If you have time, Dan, I'd love for you to stick around.
Yeah, sounds great.
We have Dan Brule from Innovzen.
How's it going?
Great.
Nice to meet you.
See you again.
Great. We have Rafi from Sense. Rafi from Sense. And we have Chris from Trackr. Chris Herbert from Trackr.
Heather, nice to meet you.
Great. Is Rafi here? Okay. Great. Well, I'd like to start by asking each of you how your flagship products are really making the home smarter. So Dan, let's start with you. What can you tell us about what Innovzen is doing?
Well, we're interested in breathing. And in this high-tech world, one of the concerns is people losing touch with nature, with each other. Technology should be bringing us together and should be helping make connections. And there's a little concern about everybody on their own little device, sitting in the same room, but totally absent from each other. So breathing is a way for people to come together. You notice when one person yawns, somebody else always yawns. It's a way of communicating. It's a way of connecting. So at Innovzen, we've developed a chair called the O2 chair. It's a way to de-stress. It helps with relaxation. We can use it to promote performance, increase your energy, and it allows us to create a ritual. Rituals are really important. Rituals are things that bind people, and so a very natural ritual is breathing together, just stopping from time to time during the day. Taking a simple breath. People have lost touch with how powerful something as simple as that is until you actually practice it. So a breath, we breathe 20,000 times a day. That's 20,000 opportunities to remember something, to remind ourselves of something, to center ourselves, to feel a connection to each other. So if I feel a connection to someone, it's a very good time to breathe in. Take in what I'm hearing. Take in what I'm seeing. Take in what I'm noticing, and actually use the breath as a way to connect energetically to each other. And children model their parents unconsciously. And so if you're rushed and hurried, your breathing pattern reflects that. And when you slow your breathing pattern down, and when you relax, the people around you sense that. They relax also. So breathing is our way of allowing people to come together in a natural, but in this time, in this day and age, in a unique way.
How does your chair help promote better breathing?
When you try to tell someone to breathe, unless they have had training, as soon as they take a breath, they bring artificial manipulation as something unnatural. They use muscles that don't belong in the breathing. They use force and effort that actually interferes in the purpose of breathing. So the chair is a way you can relax in the chair, and the way that the chair moves, and we have a swing device that monitors your weight and your size and so on, and it can program a breathing rhythm. For example, 6 to 8 breaths a minute is considered a therapeutic zone. The science is solid on this now. If you practice paced breathing for just 5 minutes, breathing at a rate of 6 breaths per minute, cortisol levels are decreased by 20% in 5 minutes. The stress hormone, heart rate slows down, mental acuity increases, focus, balance. So the chair is a way where the way it moves and the program in it, your body says, this is how I'm supposed to breathe. And so just by relaxing in the chair, you're training your system to remember a natural rhythm and a relaxed pattern. So it's a sneaky way of getting into breathing training.
Interesting. So Chris, tell us about Trackr. I know it does a lot to actually make you a smarter person outside the home by not, inside and outside the home, by not losing your stuff. How does it make the home of the future smarter, or the home of the present, really?
Thanks. I think that's a great question. It's something that we've been thinking about a lot in the last 6 months. I mean, we have our homes, and in the end, you know, what makes home is kind of our stuff in the home. It's, of course, the people there in our families in the home, but it's a home is where all of our stuff is. And to imagine a truly smart home is, well, the smart home should know what stuff is in the home, right? Yeah. And we see a grand future where we're heading to, where we have these small tracking devices that can attach to all your items. And then from a phone, you can see where your stuff is. So you can find things around the home from where it is, room to room. And you can cause the devices to start to ring as well. And then when you're on the go or something goes missing, you can recover it using our crowd GPS system, a way to crowdsource the location of your lost items using the signals from other people's phones. If you guys seen Batman the Dark Knight, Batman finds Joker the same way. But we see that 5 years from now, as more items are going to be tagged and become intelligent, you know, I'm sure we just saw a presentation of how all of our appliances are going to be connected, and this can be reported up to a cloud-based server where you can suddenly say, Siri, where's my keys? Siri, where's my tools? Where's my hammer? And Siri will tell you in the garage, in the living room, and give you that exact location.
Obviously, there's a fair amount of electronics and cost that go into putting a tracking device on something today. You wouldn't probably put a tracker on every tool in your toolbox, or every toy in the kids' room, or at this point, because the cost would be pretty high. How do you? And of course, sometimes the tracker is pretty small, but sometimes you have a really small thing. My son has like tiny cars. The tracker would be pretty big. How do you see sort of miniaturization, and where do you see the future of tracking going to where you can cover more objects?
I think that the current technology, we definitely have size restrictions. And it's funny though, the size restriction is mainly based off of our power source that we're using today, which is small coin cell batteries. A lot of the fitness tracking devices, wearables out there are powered off the same space, and everyone's using the same chipsets. We're seeing a huge jump in technology year from year on terms of power consumption. Last year's chips versus today's chips use 1/4 the power consumption, a 4x improvement in just 1 year. And for our own devices, last year we were shipping a device that was twice the thickness of this. And so we've seen this reduce half and half every year. And we see this rate dramatically increasing as the wearables market, fitness tracking market continues to increase in size.
Great. I see that Rafi from Sense is here, and I'd like to invite him up on the stage. Hi. So, Rafi, what can you tell us about Sense and what your mother product does to help make the home smarter?
What we typically do at Sense are versatile sensors you could use on all sort of things. The type of uses you can make of it relate to your home, but can also relate to your health. Because our approach is that, well, people, we make applications that are people-centric, and people have concerns about their home, but also their health and their kids and all sort of things. So the versatile sensors we do are endlessly reprogrammable, so you can decide if you want to use them on your front door to detect if someone is coming in, but you can use that same sensor in your pocket as an activity tracker, or in your bed, or on the wall to measure what the temperature is. So our approach is that users have shifting needs or concerns over time, so they have this set of sensors that they can endlessly repurpose as their needs change. So for instance, you're going on vacation with your family, you are going to use all your sensors as activity trackers, and you and your kids, each one of them will have an activity tracker, whereas you're not probably going to buy 4 Fitbits to do that. And when you get back from vacation, you're going to put back the sensors on the wall to measure the temperature or what have you. We measure all sort of things for how many coffees do you drink, are your children brushing their teeth properly, are the kids back from school, etc. So this is what we do.
I have a question for the group. Obviously, we're getting more and more sensors as part of our devices, whether it's measuring your breathing, where your stuff is, how dry your clothing is, with the temperature of your room. But we also sometimes see, this is particularly true in the smartphone space, which I get a lot of exposure to, things that are just a little bit TMI, like my Samsung phone tells me what the comfort level is of a room, as if I needed it to tell me how comfortable I feel right now. Like it's 75 degrees, you should feel hot. And what do you feel is sort of TMI that we don't need to know from our smart home? Do any of you have a thought of something that?
I think that right now we're early days and we're seeing a lot of experimentation in what the smart home can do. And we're reading the press from Unveiled and all, the press focuses generally on the wacky things from CES, and we always see that, and I love reading about it. But I think that from my mindset is what we should focus on is something that truly is a huge impact for the user, and they can get a huge benefit that isn't much before. In our space, what we compete around is actually looking around for your keys. We have to be faster and more efficient to find your keys in the morning than just looking around. And I think that you can apply this to several things. I think the door lock space, which is getting a lot of traction in the smart home, is a space that is really interesting to think about, where we're replacing a $5 door lock with a $199 smart lock. But then your lock sometimes will run out of batteries,
Right.
and then you can't get into the house and actually rely on it. And I think that it's very early days and these things will improve, but we have to look at what is currently being done using old technology and see how technology can actually improve the user experience instead of just doing an app to make it cool or for marketing's sake.
So I'm curious, I guess I'll start with Ben. What things do you think the home are not yet possible with a smart home that should be possible in the future, or we would want to be possible?
Well, that's a good question. What is not yet possible, what could be?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Yeah, so I think, I touched on this briefly earlier, but one area that's of great interest for us is helping people, like I mentioned, be better cooks, right, and be able to take part in that activity. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there because I think we see in our society that so many of us love to watch the Food Network and these other shows, and it's this aspiration that we love to create and be creative. So I think there's some really exciting opportunities there in empowering consumers to create the meals that they always envisioned they wanted, and to be able to have a sense of pride that they could create that for their family, and also from a nutritional perspective, right? I mean, as we see this rise in health and understanding not only how what our actions are, steps of sleep of that nature, but what are we putting into our bodies, right? And what does that mean for our unique health needs? And so I think as you tie that back to the kitchen and the cooking process, a lot of exciting opportunities there that we're looking at.
Have you guys all heard of the smart fork?
Smart fork?
Yeah. Last year, that's what falls in the wacky gadgets and maybe TMI, I don't know. The smart fork tells you how much you've eaten and then makes noises or whatever to make you feel bad for eating too much. Just like there's a smart toothbrush that makes you feel bad for not brushing hard enough. It's I call that my dentist. But, what about you, Dan? What do you think? What would you like to see that you haven't seen yet in a smart home?
Since I approach things from this level of breathing, we know that certain breathing patterns are associated with certain emotional states and certain psychological states and certain physical capacities. And so my interest is in monitoring breathing and making connections. So if I have a monitor and I'm tracking my breath and I look at the end of the day and I see some peak moments or I see some low moments, or I see moments where I had an argument, or where I was mentally dull, and then I look at the breathing pattern at that time, I can begin to make connections in how to control my physiology, and how to control my emotions, and how to stay in a resourceful psychological state by remembering to take care of myself. Because in this pursuit of doing things, we forget to take care of ourselves. And breathing is a very basic way to come home to ourselves and to keep track. I mean, when you're upset and when you're nervous, you breathe differently than when you're relaxed and calm. When you're in the zone and when you're performing at peak levels, you're breathing differently than when you're stuck and when you're confused and you can't get going. And so knowing those things gives us a way in to remain in resourceful states. I'd like to see a lot more of that happening.
Is there any kind of a creepy factor with any of the things? I mean, none of the things that we've talked about really seem that way. I think, for example, Mother doesn't have cameras, and that is something that creeps some people out. I'm kind of curious, Rafi. Was that kind of deliberate decision that you felt cameras was a step too far?
No, because what we wanted to do is to have devices or sensors that can blend in your everyday life. We believe that people are not going to interact with yet more appliances. If Internet of Things is really something that's going to happen, it means that people are not going to have like 5 or 6 or 7 more appliances at home, because, well, if this is what is going to happen, it is not the next big thing, just yet more appliances. So if Internet of Things is the next big thing, people are going to have 10s and 20 and 30 more devices in their home. So it means that these devices must completely disappear and blend into your everyday environment, so that you never interact with a device but your daily habits. So the way you use the cookies that come with Mother is that you put a cookie on your door, on your pillbox, on a coffee machine, and you act normally. People keep up with their daily routines. They use their usual pillbox, their usual toothbrush, so they don't have to buy a specific connected toothbrush or connected fork. And this is very important. We don't believe that the most difficult thing is to obtain from the users is to change their routines. This is to have them go into routines where charging new batteries, pushing a button to synchronize data, make sure this and that works, is the hardest thing to get. Technology is quite easy compared to changing the behavior and the habits that people have ingrained. So what we're working on is how you can smartify daily mundane things with disappearing sensors that get completely blended with what you're doing. So you can't do that with a camera. What we want to do is just smartify daily habits and daily things people are doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will find that easy to handle, whereas some of the pitches that I've gotten as a journalist for this show, somebody sent me one with a subject line, "Smart device prevents adultery." And I looked it up, and it was a camera system for the home, like a monitoring and intercom system. And I had to write to the PR guy, because I said, "How is this going to prevent adultery?" And he said, "Well, I got your attention, didn't I?" But he also said, "Well, you can see what's going on in the bedroom." Oh, what is his family like? Anyway, but there definitely is a lot of push toward things that I think gather a lot of data on you. Some of them do have cameras, and some of them, do record. So, I mean, do any of you feel, obviously none of your products do that, but it seems to be a trend in smart home. Do any of you guys feel like where do you think people are going to land on that? Do you think people are going to want more privacy from their own devices, or do you think they're just going to say, "Well, I own the device, so it can record me"?
It depends who makes the decision, because if you're the father of the family, you buy a camera, you put the camera, maybe you're happy with it, but it's most certain that the rest of the family is not happy with it. I mean, having experienced that with a drop cam, it's very hard to place a drop cam in your house, because, well, nobody agrees. I ended up putting a drop cam in my own office, and the only thing I see is myself.
There is that kind of, where you mentioned the creepy factor, intimate, maybe we're being forced to give up privacy. Maybe that's just a thing of the past, and we're going to have to get used to it, and so how much do you invade this level of intimacy with monitoring and censoring and recording?
Yeah, and the other factor is that the more data you gather, the less you care about the data. Because at some point, you get so much data that you don't care about looking at data. So gathering data is easy because the device does it, and it's stored somewhere. But at the end of the day, the most difficult thing is, well, reading the data, making sense out of it, and we don't have much time to interpret that. So what we are lacking are actually the algorithms that can take out a needle out of the haystack, and without going into watching hours and hours of video just in case your wife is cheating on you.
Maybe their technology has facial recognition or something.
Yeah, or cheating recognition.
Speaking of concerns, obviously security is always a concern with a new technology. Is there anything that people should be? Is there anything you guys are concerned about in terms of, you have connected devices? Obviously, anytime you put something on the internet, there's always a possibility of somebody being able to access it without permission. How do all of you guys address that?
I think that you need to really invest a lot into the security of your cloud databases, and I think that as more homes turn on to be hacked, as this is right now a very small niche in the market, and it's not really a target for hackers yet, but if this actually goes mainstream, then this will be a viable target for attacks. I mean, what would be more fun for a 16-year-old kid to hack all the nests out there in the world and turns everyone's heat up to 90 degrees, while they're not home. I mean, or go by and just unlock every single door while you drive by, or hack it, unlock it from the internet as well. So while we are making these homes more intelligent, we need to be careful because we also expose some real dangers that the previous technology did not give access to.
Yeah, and then there's something people don't realize. So even if you don't install this kind of devices at home, you might have like robbers putting sensors on your own door. Even if you're not doing it, someone else can put a sensor on your door, and he has access. So it's kind of an arm race between what you can do on the inside and what other people can do from the outside. Wow. So even if you're securing your own data, it doesn't mean that someone is not gathering data on you without using your own devices or accessing your own data.
Is this something that you look at Whirlpool in terms of the future, how to make sure that your smart appliances are secure?
Yeah, for us, it's everything we do around the smart home is really driven by what the consumer wants, right? So not only does the innovation start there, but even once it's made available, the key is for us to maintain this level of trust that we've had, right? So Whirlpool Corporation has been supporting families now for 102 years, right? So that level of trust is very long and very deep. And it's something we take really seriously. And I don't think corporations last that long unless you do have that level of trust. So things don't, things will be, our commitment to protecting our families remains steadfast, right? Just as new technologies always have come along, we always do everything in our power to make sure that we're serving the consumer, but also giving them the right level of transparency that they expect from us, that builds that trust, and then also making sure that we give them the level of control that is rightfully theirs.
Great. So what I'm just curious, what smart devices do all of you have? Do you only have your own, or what do you have in your homes?
I'm a minimalist. They're as little as necessary, and only as much as necessary. It's my philosophy.
I got an August. I really like that. and I have the SmartThings sensors and playing around with that. I have the door sensors, so to know when it comes open and goes, because usually when my wife comes home, I need to have about an hour and a half before I need to go home to get dinner, or else get in trouble. So I think those are the only two I have right now.
I haven't tried quite everything. Well, the one I use are the ones we make because they're the best.
And drop cam in your office.
And drop cam just to see myself in the mirror.
And drop
Most
cam on the front
complicated way
door.
to look at yourself in the mirror.
And drop cam on the front door to make sure the neighborhood burglar is not putting sensors on it.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing you can do.
I've got Nest thermostat, Nest Protect, and then my wife and I both use Java.
So you bring up an interesting point. The smart home isn't just your home; it's your person too. It's your Bluetooth headset. It's your phone. It's your wearable. How do you see the wearables interacting with the home?
But I see wearables as the best way to get notifications because, well, we're putting sensors everywhere that send data in real time, and having having to take off your smartphone from your pocket just to read a notification is not well adapted. So as you get more notification, more real-time information about small things, making a simple gesture to check if this is something important, I think wearables are quite the needed move we need to make in terms of interfaces to go with these sensors.
Yeah, I mean, with wearables, certainly you're saving milliseconds of your life, and they add up. I mean, first it was you had to go to your PC to check email. Then it was you had to reach in your pocket. Now it's you have to look at your wrist, and pretty soon, for those wearing Google Glass or whatever, it's now I got to wink my eye, and then after that, it's being fed directly into my optic nerve without
Yeah, or you
benefit
can
of
have
external
haptic as
things.
well.
Exactly, but now that we're gathering all this data from people, their heart rates, their sleep patterns, their steps, can the home do anything with that data to make the experience better?
I think the first thing homes need to do is to increase the use of machine learning to lower the number of notifications and stuff they're sending you. For instance, if you have a sensor on your door, you don't want to receive a notification every time the door opens. You need to have a learning door that learns from the patterns of opening of the door, and which is able to send you a notification saying it's Thursday, it's 5 p.m. and the door didn't open where it usually does, which is a valuable notification and not just the send you notification about anything. So I think the first level is make things really smart. I mean, based on data crunching, adding more algorithms, adding machine learning to have more accurate and more precise and more valuable notifications.
I think one of the focuses is going to be on how can we save time? Time is becoming the most precious thing. I can get my money back, I can get my health back, I can get new friends if I lose them. But time is the one thing you can't get back. And so anything that we can do, any way that we can use technology to save precious moments of time, I think that's going to be a real focus in the next few years. I myself, as I became more affluent and I'm juggling my values, time has become the one thing that is the most precious. So anything that technology can bring to me to save me time, I'm listening.
I think that Nest also shows us a good way to the future here, and I think that this is where they're really ahead of everyone else in the game, is actually analysis and giving that benefit and automatically doing it. It's where you set up your Nest and then it eventually learns from your habits when you're home, when you're not, and sets the values in actually the heating, and actually will result in savings on your energy bill. That's a great benefit, and I think a great use case. And I think we're right now gathering all this data and displaying it to the user but the users, we're going to get to a phase where it's, well, so what? What can the home automatically do? We just, we need to make people be able to be lazier on the home, right? That's a
Yep.
better user experience, not have to worry about things, and so you can focus on the things that matter.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, with all of the fitness trackers that we have now, we're going to at some point see a convergence with the smart home. So maybe you come home from working out, it knows your Nest or your thermostat knows that you're really hot from working out, so it puts on the air conditioning, or it turns down the heat because it can see your heart rate, or it knows you're asleep. It doesn't just know that you normally go to sleep at 10 p.m. so turn it down. It actually knows that you are asleep, so let's turn the heat down, as opposed to just watching your patterns to actually see what you do. So I think there's definitely a lot of possibility there for taking the wearable experience and the data it has about you and pairing it with what your home is telling you. So we have some time for some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody? No question about the smart home.
And if any one of you or multiple of you talk about debacles along the way, things that you thought didn't really work and just were drastic failures. I'm sure there were quite a few along the way of building a smart home tool.
So I think we had a great, we started out in this space before Bluetooth Low Energy was around, so we were creating an item tracker, and we initially created with just regular Bluetooth. The problem with this is that we made the keys smarter so they could be tracked, but then you had to recharge your keys, and forgetful people will definitely forget to charge their keys. So, this is definitely, I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes, I think, like this, where you have the great idea, but then reality kind of just flies over your head a little bit of what consumers actually want to do. I think that it was mentioned earlier, is, starting with the consumer in the innovation and what they actually want. And I think that's really key for everyone in the space to really focus on. And if we can do that, then we're going to really be moving forward rapidly in the space rather than making boneheaded moves like I usually do.
Do you think the industry as a whole is going to find a way to get to a technology that really interoperates? Right now, there's Zigbee, Z-Wave, Thread, and whatever else out there. And so you have to put multiple different antennas or what have you. And I think one of the hardest parts with the Internet of Things right now is making it easy for the consumer to come home, plug something in, and it automatically works in that particular app or that particular. Do you think that the industry is going to get to the point where they actually get to similar, like Wi-Fi 802.11 or what have you?
Well, I'm a fan of BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, and I think that we can look at Linksys and Belkin and what routers people are putting into their phone. Everyone has Wi-Fi in their home already. All phones have Bluetooth Low Energy. And so we have two technologies that are pervasive, widely used, and are quite advanced as well. And so we have two winning technologies right here. I think while Z-Wave is definitely interesting, especially with Samsung's acquisition of SmartThings and the possibilities there, but I think it makes a lot more sense just to have routers with Bluetooth Low Energy, and Bluetooth Low Energy is your short range, low power RF for communicating data, and then Wi-Fi is your high data rate exchange up to the internet.
I think it's going to be a matter of might makes right, which is sort of what you're getting at too. If something's pervasive and the big players back it, then things, beta VHS, so, that's going to decide the standards war. But unfortunately for the people who are building their smart homes now, it's a little bit of a mess. And they have to be careful about what's compatible with what if they want everything to talk to work together.
It seems like there's 3 or 4 groups of big players that are all together in different camps right now, which makes it messy right now.
But messes are fun for us tech journalists because we get to write about them. If everything worked the way it should, I'd be totally out of a job. So keep fighting it. That's what I say. I have a question for you guys. Do you think that any smart home technology will actually end up being built into homes of the future? Obviously, a lot of people are retrofitting, older homes, but do you think we're going to see things in new construction?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think new construction is a great opportunity for the smart home because oftentimes when consumers kind of enter into that point in their life where they are ready to move into a new home, they tend to be more open to, well, what's currently out there, and they start to reevaluate what's possible for them. And just as they might look at the latest granite countertops, they might also evaluate, and begin to have conversations about what level of a connected home do they want in their life moving forward. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity, and I absolutely think that it's something that new construction is going to see more of.
Any
But
questions?
then again, the question is, what is the lifespan of a sensor? Because if you build it into the home with a lifespan of, with devices that have a lifespan of 3 or 4 before they become obsolete, it's much better to have removable sensors you can put from the outside than built-in things. So the smarter it gets, the shorter the lifespan of the device becomes. So this is something that needs to be taken into account as well.
I mean, we're always banking on standards. I just moved into a new house, and it definitely was not a new construction, but I went through and replaced a bunch of the sockets with USB sockets. And, if like 5 years from now, I'm pretty bullish on USB, but if 5 years from now, people aren't charging their phones on USB, I'm gonna have to pull the sockets out. Question?
Yeah, for Rafi, what are the more advanced notifications that you find people using with your sensors? It sounds like you've got a lot of flexibility in how you use them. So I guess my question is, are you finding that the average person can easily set up, and are they using the more advanced features?
I'm not sure I understood your question, but I mean, we have made all our apps quite easy to use. So generally, people use the by default settings where we have decided we set the app for a certain number of notification with the right balance of signal to noise ratio so that they are not completely overwhelmed by the quantity of information and become meaningful. Because a typical user, when he set up a new device, he is eager to have as many notifications as possible because this is new for him, and he wants to see his gadgets working. But after a few weeks, they tweak it a little bit down. But we try to make all the notification as easy to use as possible. So for instance, when someone opens your door at home, you receive a notification on your iPhone that plays the sound of a door. So you don't need to take your phone out of your pocket. You just hear a door sound from your pocket, and you know that someone is getting into your home. Or suddenly you hear that someone pouring water into your pocket, and you know that you need to drink more water, so it doesn't take much more of your attention. And so working on how you build your notification, how you make them accessible is very important as well.
And you're happy with the usage of your customers, that they're after their initial enthusiasm, that they're using them in intelligent ways and they're getting the benefit.
So what we're happy with is people inventing new uses of our sensors in things that we haven't imagined. and really on mundane things that they felt where it was useful for them. So we have users who have put one of our sensors on their cat's bowl to measure how frequently the cat eats, or on their physical mailbox, so when the postman puts a letter in the box, they get notified without getting to the box. So we like this idea of people deciding what they want to smartify. So obviously, how often your cat is eating is not a killer app, and we're not going to make millions out of it, but if it makes sense for just that user and he has an easy way to smartify an object, this is how we see the future more and more, when people will get more comfortable with this kind of technology. It's a way of getting knowledge from your environment. So you just take something here and you are just more aware and more knowledgeable about what's happening in your life. And this is the exciting part. I mean, we think that what is happening in the Internet of Things is the happening of little or of small data. So big data is the buzzword of the year, but giving to people the way to measure small things of their lives, which can be how often your cat is eating, small sets of data that you can produce locally and make sense of, is really a change in the way people learn or can measure things. It's the same thing from getting from large computers in the 70s to the PC revolution, where we gave to people the ability to create their own software and their new uses. So what we today, gathering data, making things out of data, is something only the big guys can do. This is something Walmart or Target can do out of what you have in your when you go to the register, but now we can have something that is made that empowers the end user to know whatever he's interested in, and that could be a real game-changing thing.
Thank you.
I would like a smart diaper for my son that would just go
Change
off with
itself.
Bluetooth, low energy, to let me know when to change it. I don't know how that would pair with the house. Maybe the house would start to scream at me, change. Who else has a question?
It'd just be one more thing to ignore.
Oh, you can't ignore it after a while. Any other questions from the audience?
I guess I could maybe ask Ben the same question for your products. How are you finding people using notifications? And do you have flexibility in the types of notifications?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, in our first generation of smart laundry, we made the option for notifications. We kind of had several options. Could be through text or device notification or even email, just to make sure that we were making those options available to those consumers that would find it valuable. And since then, that's a good example of where we found something like an email, for instance, might not be as valuable. And so this latest generation of laundry won't have that feature, right? It'll kind of hone it in more for just the actual device notification. So.
What types of notifications do you guys like to get the most? What do you find the most meaningful to learn from your home? What do you think, Ben? What does your home tell you that you most want to hear? As kind of a soon-to-be dad, I'm thinking more and more about safety in my home, and not only keeping my home safe, but then also opportunities to care for others in my home. So just being aware of what's going on, and the ones that I love, are they being cared for in whatever respective part of the home that they're in?
I think we want to stay open to maybe things that we don't realize that we're doing. There's the concern about people brain tumors with cell phones and all these electronic signals in the house and so on. So I think staying sensitive to how when we try to solve one problem, we may be creating another one, disrupting some natural pattern in ourselves. So, you know, having an electronic device, I think we need to stay awake to results that we don't intend, and keep the research going in that direction of what are unintended results and try to predict those and prevent some stuff.
Chris, is there anything you in particular like to be alerted about or would like to be?
Well, I think that one of the most important things of what makes home home is the people, and knowing who's home is, I think, one of the most important notifications that you can have is knowing when your, son or daughter made it home from school. I remember I, walked home by myself since elementary school, and nowadays I kind of look at that and be like, wow, that would be kind of nerve-wracking as a parent.
That's another huge trend, by the way, that I'm seeing at Eureka Park in this show is child trackers. Huge. Whether it's, whether they integrate with the home, they don't integrate with home yet, but I bet you at some point they will. In some way, the home will know when your child is home. I mean, right now you can know through geofencing and things like that. But I want to thank our panel for coming today and talking about the future of the smart home. Thank you, Ben Artis from Whirlpool, Rafi Halajian from Sense, Christopher Herbert from Trackr, and Dan Brule from Innovzen. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.